Thanks, Mr. Keller. Appreciate that. So I'm going to be able to ask a couple of the questions that I didn't think I was going to be able to ask. So I was looking at your website called justthefacts.vote, and on myth number 4, I found that it said that the county does not change its election management system. That it's false that the county does not change its election management system passwords. I assume that what you're asserting then is that you regularly change the passwords for your EMS server, for the server for EMS.
Yeah, my understanding, I'm not sure what you mean by regularly, but it is something that is changed.
So would you then be surprised, I guess, that the records from Cipher clearly indicate that all accounts had the same password and even the username was the same and has not been changed since the EMS server was set up?
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, so I'm not sure what the basis of that is.
If that were true, that would be concerning about cybersecurity, would it not?
No, that would not be concerning about cybersecurity because, Congressman, I think as you understand, the EMS is not connected to, as you relates to cybersecurity, it's not connected to the internet in any way. It's an air-gapped system. We did 2 audits that confirmed that these machines that were used in the 2020 general election were never connected to the internet.
And that's your assertion here today? Okay.
That is,
okay.
Yes.
All right.
Based upon certified folks that took a look at that as well.
And how is the paper? So let's talk about paper for a second. Myth 8, vote secure paper does not have a special coating to prevent bleed through. Are you saying that only vote secure paper was utilized in the 2020 general election?
Yes, vote secure paper was utilized, but it is a fact that you can have bleed throughs, and that's why we made sure we redesigned the ballots so that if there was a race on one side of the piece of paper, it wouldn't bleed through and show up as a vote on the other side, on the election on the other side.
Okay. I hope to be able to ask Mr. Bennett about that. Thank you.
The gentleman yields back. I'm now told that Mr. Fallon has logged in. And Mr. Fallon, do you wish to ask questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, you are recognized.
Thank you. I dream of the day that we have hearings in this esteemed committee on the crisis, not really even a crisis, but the catastrophe on the border. Being from a border state, I believe now that this administration made all other 49 states border states as well. But Madam Chair, I'd like to yield the balance of my time to my colleague and friend from Arizona, Mr. Biggs.
I thank the gentleman. Thanks, Mr. Fallon. So, Mr. Bennett, let's talk about the paper. You heard the testimony from Vice Chairman Gates. Can you please respond to us about the paper that you found in the audit, that the auditors found in the audit?
What I was informed of is that there appeared to be 10 different sources or types of paper used for the ballots. I personally witnessed the fact that on some ballots there was a fair amount of bleed through from one side to the other. But as Mr. Gates mentioned, one of the things that you're supposed to do in setting up your election in Arizona is align the ballots so that if there is bleed through from front to back or vice versa, that no corresponding ovals are affected. And it's my understanding that even though we found bleed through, we did not find that bleed through overlapping an oval on the other side.
You did, so to your knowledge, there was no encroachment from one side to the other? And
that's my understanding.
Thank you. Can you add on here to the whether there was any issues with regard to the use of the same password and usernames in some of these servers?
I can simply repeat the testimony of Mr. Ben Cotton, the CEO of Cipher, the company that looked at the equipment, who said that their evidence showed that the county used common usernames and passwords, and that I think there was more than one, but as required by state law and election procedures manuals in Arizona, they did not use unique usernames and passwords, so that if there was a question related to who did what in the election management system, not a cybersecurity issue as Mr. Gates mentioned, But the purpose for having unique usernames and passwords is so that if you have things happen within the election, you can tell who did it. And he said that the use of common usernames and passwords make that impossible to detect.
So you wouldn't know necessarily who was even logging in because the usernames are not discrete.
Correct.
Explain to us the election procedure manual and its relationship vis-a-vis statute.
The Election Procedures Manual is specifically authorized in state law. It is under the direction of the Secretary of State's office, which I occupied for 6 years. I did 3 of them during my 6 years. It's adopted in the off-election years, also has to have the consent of the Attorney General and the Governor to sign off on the Election Procedures Manual. It has the effect of law as is dictated in state statute itself.
So if there's an issue with compliance with the procedures manual, that is a statutory violation because
Yes.
it's a law.
Yes, sir.
So my understanding is that the Senate President attempted to reach out and attempted to work with the county, but that for whatever reason an impasse was reached, and the subpoenas were issued, and the ultimate issue is compliance and whether there was contempt on the part of the board in responding to those subpoenas. Mr. Sellers?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I had met personally with the Senate President numerous times, telling her that if there were serious issues or questions that needed to be answered, I wanted to help get those answers. And she felt that, well, and I'll back up a little bit, because the 2 additional audits we did after the election was over were really done to answer questions that had been given to us by the Arizona Senate.
Thank you. I'll thank the gentlelady.
The gentleman yields back, and I now recognize myself. People are coming in and logging in at the end here. Our good friend, committee member Jackie Spear, is now recognized for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I have been on for a good part. I'm also in the middle of an Intelligence Committee hearing, but I did want to get back on since there are still questions that need to be answered. Let me ask you, Mr. Bennett, you've been a public servant. Do you condemn political violence in this country, including attacks on elected officials and elected representatives?
Of course. I've had death threats myself.
Okay, so you know that Chairman Sellers and Supervisor Gates and their staff have received threats against their safety. The District of Columbia experienced political violence on numerous occasions in the weeks following the election. I was one of the members in the House gallery lying on the floor when the shots rang out, thinking that I was going to die that day. So making sure that we quell violence is critical. With that in mind, it's very important that we identify those organizations that have sought to further inflame tensions. One of those groups is Look Ahead America. On September 24th, this group held a rally in Arizona in which nearly half of the attendees were Proud Boys, which is an organization identified as a far-right neo-fascist group. Have you ever heard of the organization Look Ahead America? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
And you know this group has been associated with violent hard-right activities for a long time.
I'm not aware of that, ma'am.
The group tweeted that it would participate in a conference hosted by Nick Fuentes, a well-known neo-Nazi. You are currently listed on Look Ahead America's, quote, leadership, unquote, page as its state chairman. According to the page, you are the 5th highest ranking individual in this organization. kind of astonished that you would be associated with a group such as this, let alone take a leadership role. Your biography on the group's website notes that you served as, quote, Senate liaison for Maricopa County 2020 election audit. And Mr. Bennett, you said a few weeks ago that you are on a, quote, leave of absence from this organization to focus on election review. Is this true?
Yes, I was working on a voter registration project in Arizona known as AZ51. AZ51 connected with Look Ahead America, who wanted to help that process in Arizona, and AZ51 decided to transition the voter registration project over to Look Ahead Arizona, which was formed by Look Ahead America. So I'm with Look Ahead Arizona, which is an affiliate of Look Ahead America. But I have been on leave of absence as I've been contributing my time to the audit without pay.
All right, so you've been trying to establish some independence, is that correct?
Independence from whom?
From the organization, since you're on the leave of absence.
I was already involved in the audit, Congresswoman, when the AZ51 voter registration project transitioned to Look Ahead Arizona. So I'm not trying.
While the